Hello and welcome to the Energy Forecast 2022, and over the course of January I'm going to be interviewing 9 experts on the energy of 2022. So you can get a free workbook. You can see the link here. Please go to this link and you can sign up for a free workbook about the energy of 2022. Every single expert that I interview, I'm asking them to give me an exercise of something you guys can do and integrate into your lives to make 2022 the most amazing year ever. So go to that link, sign up for your free 2022 energy workbook. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. From the 7th of January, we're going to be having 9 experts, astrologers, numerologists, shamanic practitioners. I'm going to be talking about the Akashic Records. We're going to have lots of different experts discussing the energy of 2022 and how you can utilize this energy to have your best year yet. So hello and welcome to the Energy Forecast 2022. I am your host, Aloise.life, and today I have with me a new friend, but a fast friend already. We've established that we have past lives together, which is always a good sign. Wynne is a spiritual teacher and healer and energy worker, and previously a psychotherapist. Abby was recommended to me by someone in my community who spoke so highly of her that I knew that we had to get her on this energy forecast. So Abby, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, I'm just soaking up the appreciation. It's fab to be here. It's really good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
No, not at all. And we've had some really nice synchronicities already, and there's lots of energy rushing through my body as we are talking. So I know that this is going to be a fantastic conversation. But do you mind sort of sharing with my listeners who maybe haven't come across you so much, like a little bit about your work and what you do and how you got there?
It's really interesting. I had a phone call during the week with somebody who's moving into where I was 10 years ago. And you did mention there that I was previously a psychotherapist. I have all the accreditation. I did all the training, but sitting in a room with somebody and not being able to go into the spiritual healing aspect is, for me, just doesn't work. And so I had to invent, how do I present myself? I was a Reiki master teacher at the time, Seikhem master teacher, shamanic practitioner, and psychotherapist, as well as being deeply intuitive, not realizing I was a psychic. You know, the more you work that muscle, the more it opens, the more it flows through you. But it's a co-creation, Aloise. So if I allow, then it expands, and then I allow and it expands. And so I came to a point where my clients were showing up and I kind of already knew what they were going to say. I thought that's kind of the scariest kind of possible psychotherapist you could ever go to, is one who's psychic and knows when you're lying or not telling things. So I thought, well, how do I work with this? So I found it was incredibly useful to use the way I can read energy in the shamanic work, the healing and that, to see, okay, well, what does the person know in their brain and what does their energy want to tell me? And then how can I express what their energy is saying back to them? And then I would end up using the psychotherapy to help them hold the new formation, the transformation after the session with me. So they would transform something, they would shift it. I say, okay, that pattern is gone, but your brain doesn't know it. And so when we're finished, you're going to go back to the old thought patterns. So I would use the psychotherapy as a way to hold the thought patterns as they get ingrained and embodied into the client. So I realized then, after working like that for a while, that many people seem to have similar issues. And I started writing books. So I think I have about 10 books.
Fantastic.
And now I have a diary, which is what attracted you to me, I think, which is called a 1 day at a time diary, which is based off of the energy of the year to come. It wasn't originally. The first 2 diaries I had as 5 years and 4 years ago were based on lovely themes that I pulled out of the air. Now, as a healer, a shaman, you don't just pull stuff out of the air. But for me, it felt year 3, I'm not doing the themes in the same order as the last 2 years. This doesn't make sense to me. So I talk to the publisher and I say, look, we're moving, we're flowing, we're changing, we're growing. I'm going to get an astrologer. I'm going to work with the energy of the year and then base the themes on the best way to support yourself, depending on what's coming in for that month.
Beautiful.
So try and find an astrologer who's going to give you a general reading for a whole year. 2 years in advance is very difficult. So
Not so easy, no.
not so I learned a lot about astrology, and thankfully now I have someone I can depend on. But what's really interesting is, go back to what I just said earlier about allowing and growing and allowing and expanding and shifting and growing. When I get the report in, it's almost like I already know what's coming.
Right.
And it's just a confirmation now and a validation. And I think what you're doing here with your energy forecast for the year is stunningly important, because I've been listening to so many different people and not really sure. Whereas if you can validate and come into your sense of center and self and say, okay, this guy says this and this guy says that and this guy says the other, and go, well, what is it for me?
And you know what? You totally like pulled it out of the air. Initially, when the download that I got in the Akashic Records was people need to practice their own self-mastery. So we set up the series with everybody understanding they are a master, and they're going to watch all these beautiful beings such as yourself, and they're going to pull out the bits which resonate for them, which they want to take on, and then they can really integrate the ones that really work for them. But they're the master. They are the sovereign being that gets to choose what works for them.
Yeah, I was saying to you earlier before we started recording that I was doing a group session yesterday and the audio didn't record. Again, that's like surfing in the storm. What do you keep? What do you not keep? Do you worry? Do you not worry? But that session is a life mastery session. So even if you're not feeling like you are a master, first of all, if you're listening to anything like this, then you want to become the master of your own life, which sets you apart from a huge amount of the population, which is amazing. But to own what works for you doesn't work for me, and what works for me might not work for you. And to say, okay, well, we're not here to all get the same process. We go through the process and learn who we are. Some of us are in our yacht, some of us are in our boat, some of us are on a surfboard. It's the same sea. And so we have to look at, well, do I need to go back and repair the hull of my ship? Do I want a bigger ship? And put the work in that way.
And I love what you said about when you were developing this beautiful medley of gifts that we get given. You know, your soul is different to my soul. We've had different past lives, and that all integrates into what we're here to do here. But I love what you said about allowing. And I think one of the questions I always get asked is, how do we do that? How do we develop our gifts? And I think what you just said is so poignant, because we have to lean into them and practice them and then allow, if you see what I mean. And a lot of people don't necessarily do the leaning in enough, and it's like anything else, it doesn't just turn on one day. You have to evolve and develop it with it.
Well, I think I like how you're saying the leaning in. For me, it makes me think about permission, to the point where, have you given yourself permission to accept that this is a gift? Because what happens, we go right back to, what is your purpose? Why are you here? And I just keep it simple. You're here to shine your light. And anything that makes you, encourages you to shine brighter, is the direction that you want to grow in, like a flower growing to the sun.
Beautiful.
But if you have a problem with feeling good, or whatever it is that you're doing that makes you shine, then you might not have given yourself permission to lean in deep enough, say, to go there, to learn. Can you give yourself permission to make mistakes, to screw it up and say, okay, and instead of walking away and saying, oh, this isn't for me, I shouldn't be doing this, say, no, that's my learning. Now I'll go back and try again a different way.
Yes. Yeah. So important.
And by saying, okay, I'm not taking it personal, I'm not going to judge myself, I'm really enjoying this, I'm going to make a total mess of it until I get it right. And if I don't like it, then I'll walk away and do something else.
Yeah. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Because I think that's the other thing, is that in our community, we have a sort of a Dharma life community, but it's where we do our spiritual evolutionary work there. And one of the things I always say to people is, it's not easy. This is your hero's journey. You will be tested, and it's up to you whether you go up the ladder or down the snake. That's dependent on your own attitude. Are you, like you said, are you going to get beaten down and think, oh, I just can't do this? Or are you going to get yourself back up and keep going? And I think
that's one of the things really about the energy, not necessarily of this year in particular, but of the last few years, I think probably since 2012, where it's really become pertinent for people to take responsibility for themselves.
Yes.
And to show up for themselves and do the work for themselves. And one of the things that didn't resonate with me with psychotherapy is the dependency that's almost encouraged in a way. You're my client, you're coming for the next 6 months every Thursday at 2:00, and that's it. And then you can go off and live your life and go, don't worry, I'm going to see Abby on Thursday at 2:00. So whatever happens, I can bring it to her. And so you're not really taking responsibility for your life, because Abby will fix it on Thursday. And it doesn't work for me at all. And I'm just sick of seeing you every Thursday. Go off and learn how to do these things. And I'll see you every 6 months, and we'll sit down, we'll have a talk on how are things and what's not working for you and what is, and try this and try that and see how you go. And that's creating the responsible, healed person.
Absolutely.
And if, one of the things about energy healing and the borderline that Carl Jung was exploring at the later end of his life, where he was dipping into shamanism, going on that hero's journey and coming back with the red book, with the journeys and the mandalas, coming up with the idea of archetypes. One of the things that I've found myself shifting into in the last 2 years is offering to clients, okay, well, what's your best healed self archetype look like?
Nice.
Because we have all the archetypes that break. We have the crazy person, we have the psychotic person, we have the addict, we have all of these illness and dis-ease, out of balance archetypes. Okay, well, what's the healed person look like? And because you can't see that, you don't think you can create it. So it's just, well, I'm just going to manage all of the stuff that I have here. So no, we have an opportunity now with the way the energies are.
Yes.
To say, okay, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to create a contract with my best healed self to become that. And this year is a really good year to do that, because the energies, I think, are conducive to finally releasing the thing that you've already been releasing for the last 10 years that never actually disappeared or never went, and say, I'm really going to knock it on the head now. And just like you said there, Aloise, it's not easy. So if you were going to say, okay, I give myself permission to grow and blossom and expand into the light, I'm going to take advantage of this year's energies so that I can step into my best healed self. And then you say, what's in the way of me doing that? Which is how I kind of work.
Lovely.
Then you see all the things that are in the way, and you might have to experience them. And that's the unpleasant part.
Right. Okay. But you're setting that intention.
You're setting that intention. So for you, again, to not take it personally when somebody picks a fight with you, and all the old resentment, old jealousy, old guilt, old this, old that comes up, and you go, oh, and then you fall into it and you're feeling it, and you're back into the soap opera life. And then you have to catch yourself and go, oh, I asked, what's in the way of me living my best life? And here it is again. That's the recognition part, and go, okay, well, how do I stop myself from doing that? And that's the piece that a therapist or a healer can't do for you. You could end up being so caught in the drama of it, because there's something seductive about the jealousy, and it takes away responsibility, and you start blaming other people. And it's really about having the extra eye maybe open on yourself to observe how you are in those situations, and to go, okay, is this okay with me? And sometimes it just is what it is. So
I think that's how we heal. We feel to heal, don't we? So part of our hero's journey is clearing our karma, and to do that we have to feel it. So like you said, if you're setting your intention for the year to be, okay, I want to get anything in the way of me being my best self, then that stuff is going to come up. And I think, like you rightly said, it's empowering people to have the tools to be able to cope with that when it happens, rather than fall into deep depression. You know that if you channel the energy out, you write, you talk, you walk, you do all of that stuff, it's going to help it move through you. So I can completely see, Abby, why the psychotherapy was not for you, because you're creating leaders, I would imagine, in the work you're doing.
Well, that's kind of where I thought, okay, I'm a healer for the healers.
Yeah.
So that I would heal the people who then heal more and more people, or a teacher for the teachers. But what's really interesting is that my trajectory has changed a little bit, and that all my healing programs and everything are now online, and they're available as self-paced courses, so that I can now go and write novels.
Right. Okay. Very sensible.
See, so I've written the self-care books, which are how to be well, how to heal your inner wounds. Those are my 2 main books. And then I have healing affirmations, and I have all this other stuff, which I can't even remember now. But so in order to heal, to unlock, to open, I think we have to go back to fairy tales. We have to go back to myths. We have to go back to story. Go to the possibility of bringing magic into everyday life. Because I think as I was saying to you earlier about this year coming with the energies, if you imagine all the streams of energy coming into planet Earth, there's millions of them. And you get to choose what you want to step into, which energies you bring into your world. Okay, the choice is based on what your vibration is at the time, but also then setting that intention, as we were just saying, for your best life. And then not to be pushing it, but to go with it so that it opens and that you lift up into where you're going to. And that brings that magic in. And I'm hoping that by writing as a novel with a normal person who has a normal job, and then all this weird stuff starts happening, that people like us will go, oh my God, that happened to me. And people who are, let's say, call them like the muggles, the Harry Potter, the people without magic will just think it's a great story. Or just the people who have the magic will go, oh my God, now I understand all these things that have been happening. So that's kind of where I've been brought to this year, which is really kind of exciting.
Fantastic. And so you were talking before we came on about the energy of this year, and you were saying that effectively it is a really good year for people to dive into this kind of healing journey as such. So could you speak to a little bit more about what you can see? Because obviously this is part of your diary, your calendar. Like, what is it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm still feeling a stickiness, a hardness, a difficulty. It's like walking through a swimming pool with peanut butter sometimes, and you just wonder why everything is just taking so much more energy than normal. So when I'm saying to you about the archetype of the best healed self and show me what's in the way, when you have a day where the energy is like treacle or like peanut butter, and you're doing your normal things and you're absolutely exhausted, and you find yourself getting angry at yourself and starting being mean, and why can't I do all of this? That's coming up to show you that this is how you're treating yourself, and is that the way you want to treat yourself as your best healed self? So to go, okay, to have the appreciation that some days are going to be difficult and sticky, and other days are going to be open and flowing, and to go with what you're feeling at the frequency that you are. And for you, it's different than it is for me. I have a couple of buddies. I would text them and say, you know, my body is in such pain today. Is it energetic? And they go, oh yeah, I'm in pain as well. Great, it'll be fine tomorrow. I said, oh no, I'm okay. Maybe it isn't energetic. Maybe you just need to rest. To allow yourself to go, okay, to do all the things, but sometimes some of the things you have to do is actually just be. Just being is really, really important. So if your internal trajectory is programmed through your intention and your permission to be at the highest vibration that you can be, obviously that's going to be different for everybody, but it's the most that you can do. And to know that, yeah, I mean, when I'm projecting into the energy lines of the year to come, I kind of feel an opening in spring, not because it's spring. Because I mean, the flowers are coming out now. I don't know what it's like where you are, but I can't believe it. We've got flowers now.
They're a bit confused, I think, because of the weather.
I know, they're very confused. So I think April, May, I have a feeling, a kind of a soft feeling about May, June is going to be kind of nice. And all of the people I've been listening to have been saying travel might open up again and around May or June. So maybe just to not be afraid to make plans, but not be so attached to them that your heart will break if something changes. And that's also very important as part of growth, is to not cling on to things, but to not feel like you're stagnating either.
Yeah, we've had to really let go. My husband and I were people that traveled a lot. And so we always had something in the diary, and we always had something to look forward to in a way. And we just had to completely let go of that. And I think that's been the last 2 years. I don't know about you, but I've grown so much. It's been exponential, I think. And I think that's the opportunity that is in an environment like this. A diamond becomes a diamond when it's put under pressure. And all of us have been going through such an incredible time these last 2 years, but at the same time, it's made us evolve and grow.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a big wake-up call as well. It's shocking to see, you know, different people, different reactions. But as you were saying earlier, where are you living? And what have you chosen to have around you? And who have you chosen to be around? And is that working for you? I mean, I've been married now nearly 30 years, and my children are all teenagers and grown up. And it's very much a lesson that I learned when I got married all those years ago, was we're not going to live for the holidays. We're going to live for every day. And so that's something that I have cultivated for years, whereas for some people it might be a new thing. So again, it's about where are you with your growth experience, your process, and maybe
what's
it's
between you and where you need to
and
be.
where you need to be, but also to take an opportunity to look back on the last 2 years and what's my biggest learning.
Yes.
What was the hardest thing for me? And instead of being upset about it, to say, well, how can I look after myself in it? And again, not creating anything, was saying, okay, if I need to look after myself better this year, which is really the premise for One Day at a Time Diary, which is about cultivating a better quality relationship with yourself, showing up and being your own best friend, and sitting with yourself and checking in at a deeper level. Well, how am I today? Is the energy like treacle, or is it me, or is it an emotional thing? And what can I do to support myself to get through the day instead of pushing myself to get through the day anyway? And things like, well, look at the to-do list, and can I do all of them? Should I leave some of them till tomorrow? And then in a few days' time, you might have a burst of energy and you get through a whole week's worth of to-do lists.
What I'm hearing is it's going to grow, and being kind to yourself moment to moment, depending on how you feel, effectively.
Well, that's kind of where we are. I think time feels like it stagnates at times, and then it feels like it accelerates, and I'm feeling an acceleration at the moment. I know also when planets are in retrograde, it feels like you're going backwards, and then when they're all heading the right direction, it feels like things are going faster again. So at the end of the day, what we've all been faced with in the last few years is the possibility of our death, and we don't talk about that very often. So you could say, okay, well, if today's the last day that I have of my life, what would I do different? Or if this is the last year that I have, I mean, all these people that are dying, that unexpected and shocking. I've lost friends. My, boy in my son's class just died. And so you say, okay, let's live the way we want to die. Let's die the way we want to live. Say the things, do the things. And okay, yes, my heart longs to be in Peru climbing a mountain, but I can't go because of travel restrictions. What is it that I feel I would be getting in Peru? And how do I give it to myself here?
Fantastic.
That kind of thing. What is it? If I'm agitated, how do I calm myself down? If I feel trapped, how can I get the sense of expansion?
And you were saying before about timelines and how there are multiple timelines. And one of the things for this year coming forward for people is that they really need to choose and be mindful of the timeline that they're on.
Yeah, I have a feeling as you're saying this, that this is now fine tuning at the personal level.
Right.
I think speaking shamanically, as a collective, as the world population, I think we jumped a few timelines into a better timeline than was possible before. I think it leads us on to, of course, to bigger questions about free will and the plan and why we're here and all of that. But to take it as most simplistic, we passed some test or other and we got a better quality result. And so it's like we picked Earth out of a darker, heavier frequency and lifted it up to a better one. But Earth is already on that course now. That's what I mean. So the trajectory for planet Earth is of the light, and that's it. But you still have a choice as the person that you are, what your trajectory is going to be. And what kind of life would you like to have? So just like I was saying, some of the work that I did 10 years ago is now coming into play now, but I've already done that work, whereas some people haven't done that work. Maybe now's the time to do the work.
Yeah, sure. So choose your trajectory effectively about.
Exactly. But you can sit down and talk about it and talk about it and talk about it, and it does nothing, but it's like putting more paint into the glass and just stirring it around, and it just gets muddier and muddier. As you can say, okay, I'm finished with, I'm going to just do, I'm going to transform this, and I'm going to move on, and I'm going to let more light in,
expand
and give myself permission to feel joy. Like we were saying earlier, give myself permission to learn what my gifts are. Some people who are watching this, anyone who's attracted to a video like this has a gift that maybe they're not utilizing. Maybe as I'm saying this, they're go, oh, maybe that's what it is. Say, okay, so how can you work with that? You have to bring it into your awareness. You have to bring it into the front of your consciousness and say, okay, I'm going to have patience with this, but I would like to cultivate this. I'd like, and it's like the seed you plant it. It doesn't just grow overnight.
No, and I think, you made some very wise advice earlier about this intention. Intention is powerful. Asking it is given is real. If you hold in the forefront of your mind what it is you want to develop, discover, find, be told, whatever it is, that is what your guidance will deliver. But we are powerful human beings that need to focus our energy and attention on what we want to create. And when we do that, it really can have incredible results.
But even focusing our attention on who we want to be.
Yeah, beautiful.
Because when we are ourselves more completely, more fully, we can sit there, let's say, around our family who might be saying things that we don't agree with. We don't feel like we have to jump in and have a fight with them about it. We can say, okay, well, I know who I am and I know what I feel and I know how I think. And I don't have to justify that, and I don't have to validate that, and I don't have to fight for my space at the table. So I'll just listen with grace, love, and compassion, and I'll walk away, and I haven't changed. I don't feel like I have to please anybody anymore. That comes with age as well, but I think more and more people are getting it earlier now because of our ability to just know what people aren't saying.
Well,
or what
kind of this big elephant in the room, isn't it? And some people see it and some people don't.
I don't know. I think all people have the capacity to see it. Some people just don't want to because it's blinkered life, and I'm happy and this is what I'm going to do and I'm just going to stick to this, and that's fine. And you go, okay, but that's your choice. And if this was your last year or your last week or your last day of your life and this is what you're choosing then, and that's what you're choosing, that's okay. But it's not what I choose. And I'm going to do what I choose and live my life how I want to live. And that's good for me. So
really beautiful. Thank you. And you talked about your diary. So I'd love for you to just explain a little bit more to our listeners, because I think it could be a really valuable asset for them for their coming year.
Oh, well, thanks for the opportunity. I think some people have got in touch with me, people when we were at the very first lockdown, that using the diary was the one thing that helped them get through it, which to me was just wonderful, because anything I create for people is for that purpose, to help them feel supported and strong. So each year is divided up into months and themes, and the themes are based on the energy of the month that's coming. So if you get a lovely theme like balance and stability, then you know that actually what Abby's saying here is that the energies are going to be incredibly difficult and I need to focus on being balanced and stable. But I don't explain it like that. Sure. Balance and stability, that sounds great. So no, it's really important this year that you focus on being balanced, because things are going to come and knock you over. And so each month then starts with an invocation. I write it in the present tense, and the idea is for someone to actually speak it out loud or to change the words to something that suits them and say, so this month I realize this, my intention is for this, and I'm asking for that. So change it around. And then I have an energy exercise that you can do to embody the invocation, and then a going deeper suggestion. And basically you have the whole month to do it. So I have dedicated people who read the invocation on the first day of the month, do the exercise maybe 3 or 4 times a week during that month, or you could do it every day. It's something to just stop and reconnect into your intention. And then peppered through the month are affirmations that are at the frequency of the intonation and the theme, to keep your energy at that. Sure. And then there's space for you to write how you're feeling, what's coming up for you, what's difficult. And then there's reflections and check-ins and everything in the diary. So you basically have a whole year's worth of healing work documented, so that at the end of the year you go, oh my God, I feel exactly the same at the beginning of the year. What did I do? And then you look and say, oh yeah, I remember this. Oh no, I remember. So you can have...
It sounds like a wonderful companion,
Yeah, and the designer uses fabulous images as well, and it's very vibrant, and the colors are really kind of hold the frequency as well. So
beautiful. And where can people find you?
Well, I think now the diary's online, and we're down to the last couple of thousand copies. No, it's not even a couple of, there's under 1,000 left. We usually sell out by January, but because people aren't going out to shops physically as much. However, this time last year there was none left. So if people are interested, I think go to their online bookstore and see if it's there. You can probably even order it in, or Amazon shall have it. And then there's other books that I have. One Day at a Time diary. I actually have it here.
Yeah, let's have a look. One Day at a Time. Beautiful. 2022 diary. Fantastic. Excellent. Amazing, Abby. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. So appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom. Really appreciate your time. So just to sort of sum up, I think what Abby was saying is it's really a year for you to choose your trajectory. Look at your highest self, who you want to be, and what is in the way of you becoming that person. And then look at what needs to shift and change, and set that intention that it is going to change. But don't be surprised when that stuff comes up.
But can I just add to that sometimes that's all you need to do.
Beautiful.
That you don't have to physically force or push any change, but what you do need to do is sit with yourself with compassion.
Yes.
So when you've recognized you've fallen into drama and resentment and jealousy and anger, and you catch it, you say, oh, I've done it again. Which part of me is feeling the jealousy? Which part of me is feeling the anger? What do they need? And how could I heal them? So we can move on more consolidated. So kind of not see yourself as just you, but as you and all the aspects of you throughout your whole life. And say, oh, it's my 7-year-old that needs some love today, or it's my inner teenager that needs some love today. And yeah, that's kind of how I would work.
Beautiful, beautiful. And then obviously you can have your lovely diary as your companion.
And I've done online programs as well for healing inner child and healing inner teenager. I don't think there's many people have dealt with inner teenager, and she can be very difficult, your inner teenager.
I can imagine. It's stroppy, slamming doors.
I've got 4 of them now, so it's fun.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Abby. I really appreciate you coming on the Energy Forecast 2022. And if you haven't already, please do look at the link below and sign up for your free energy workbook. And Abby is going to be doing some behind the scenes stuff with us now. And she's also given us a beautiful exercise for the workbook. So we will see you inside the workbook, and we'll see you on our next show, which will be in about 3 days' time. So what did you think to this interview? Hopefully you got some really good insights, and you really now understand how you can implement the energy of 2022 into your life. Ready? Please do sign up for our free energy workbook. The link is here. You can sign up for your free energy workbook, and inside the workbook are all of our experts giving you an exercise that you can do, that you can integrate and put into your life to make 2022 the best year yet. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel. The interviews will be coming out from the 7th of January for the rest of January, all the way to the end of January. So if you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel, like and share, and I really hope that you find a lot of value from the Energy 2022 forecast series.